I never thought I'd be back in Ireland after last year's motorcycle tour of this amazingly beautiful country. But here I was again just a little over a year later, and I was even noticing that I was traveling on some of the same roads as last year. But this time I wasn't here to tour Ireland again. I was on my way from Dublin to Derry, Northern Ireland, about 157 miles, to meet Kevin at his home where we were about to take on a much bigger challenge. We would be traveling over 6,500 miles in 16 days through 10 countries, plus a visit to the Russian border. But the primary goal on this trip was to reach the North Cape in Norway, the most northern point on the European continent, which is about 650 miles north of the Arctic Circle. The last hour or so of my 4-hour ride to Kevin's house was wet and soggy, but I arrived early enough to have a good visit with Kevin, Kathleen, Cahir, and Oishi. There was even enough time to enjoy another great shepherd's pie like we did last year, although Kathleen promised the next time I visit she'd be cooking something different so that I don't think that shepherd's pie is all they ever eat. Not long after we ate, it was time to say goodbye and take a few farewell photographs, because Kevin and I had a boat to catch that night in Belfast.
You can't stay around in Norway?
Yes, I do.
After you, my friend.
Go against the fence line next to your colleague, please.
Okay, thank you. This will be my first overnighter on a ferry.
Oh yeah?
First time ever.
Let's hope you're not sick all night. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my god, what have I done?
As we boarded our first ferry of the trip, I had no idea how many more times we would be riding our bikes onto and off of these boats. This particular boat would be taking us from Belfast to Liverpool, England, where we would be arriving at 6:30 in the morning.
It's about to go to the opposite.
I had so much electronic equipment that Kevin had to carry all of his gear plus half of mine up to our cabins, which was no short trek.
Yep, if you just go straight ahead, past the coffee shop, and up the first flight of stairs.
Okay.
Want to watch a movie then? You know?
We got settled into our rooms, and a short time later, we were on our way to Liverpool. This adventure was now in full swing. The waters were a little rough throughout the night as we crossed the Irish Sea due to the storm that followed us in Ireland and is forecast to follow our route through England, Holland, and all the way through Germany. We were up bright and early as we approached Liverpool, ready to begin our dash from the west coast to the east coast of England by this evening in order to catch our next boat. From Liverpool, we're stopping in Pinner, northwest of London, to have lunch at my Uncle Ted's place. Then on to Harwich, where we would catch another overnight boat to the Hook of Holland. As we rode without a care down the M6 highway, we were unaware that we were approaching the tail end of a 26-mile traffic jam due to an accident that closed the highway. Now, I'm not a fan of lane splitting, known as filtering in Europe, which is perfectly legal here, but not in the US except for California. I was hoping I wouldn't have to do any lane splitting on this trip, especially with these wide panniers on the back of my bike. But if I wanted to keep up with Kevin, I had no choice. But it did give me a chance to feel like a bit of a rebel. I have to admit, it was kind of exciting knowing I was within inches of taking out people's side mirrors or scraping the paint off the side of their cars. Eventually, we made our way over to the left shoulder of the road, which by the way is not legal, go figure, but it was much easier to work our way through the traffic. After weaving in and out of traffic for nearly an hour, we finally made it to the front of the traffic jam with the other bikers, where we all just kind of sat there quietly and stared at each other. This guy ran out of patience and took off about 2 minutes before they reopened the highway. They pulled him over about a mile down the road. The last time I was in London was 36 years ago. It was really nice to stop and see my Uncle Ted. He cooked us a great lunch and I finally got to listen to his awesome stereo system. Then he led the way back towards the highway, and we were on the road to the docks of Harwich. As we waited to board the ship to the Netherlands, we were asked by some of the bikers in this group where we were from and where we were headed. When we told them the North Cape and that we were doing the whole trip in 16 days, they gathered around us and had a good laugh. They told us we wouldn't make it. They said we would need 3 weeks minimum. And that's not the first time we've heard that either. Other experienced, well-seasoned bikers told us we wouldn't be able to pull it off too. And that was when our plans were only to go as far as the Arctic Circle and back. Not all these guys were so negative, but after providing a handful of them with our humorous travel plans, even positive-thinking Kevin started to have some doubts about whether we really could pull this off or not. So Kevin and I huddled together and tried to reassure ourselves that we really could do this.
We're getting a head start going to Bergen.
Yeah.
It's cutting out 2 days.
True.
You know, like see on the map, driving that, it would take you 2 days. You know, a full flat out going.
Okay. On this trip, falling behind schedule is not an option. Every overnight boat is reserved and every hotel night is pre-booked. Kevin has to return to work the day after our boat lands in Dublin, and I have to catch a plane back to Colorado the day after that. We allowed no room for breakdowns, mishaps, or errors in our schedule. But I was 100% positive we could pull this off, and I know Kevin does too.